Hello and welcome to another edition of my project. In today's project, we are going to learn about how to use commands to create resources. And for this project, it's going to be about using the resources to create a web page, essentially that traffic will be able to get access to this web page. So if they use the domain name, then they'll be able to use the website. So let's start it. So in order to start, for this project, we are going to use a cloud shell to create the AWS resources. So in order to do so, you need to type in cloud shell so that it will find that service for you. So we type in cloud shell. So that's cloud shell now. Then we click on it. So we are about to start now. So in order to start any AWS resources, before you do the deployment, you need to make sure that you deploy it in a particular region. And for this project, we make sure that we deploy it in US East one region. So that is what we will do. So we will start to create a VPC. So that is the step we are about to do. So this is the value for the CIDR range. So we are going to save that value and we will use it later. So export means to save. So we are saving the VPC CIDR range and the value is 10 to 10 to 0.05/16. And we also save the VPC name and the value is web VPC. So that's what it is. We'll use it later on. And we use this command. And what this command means, show VPC CIDR range. So it is showing the VPC that we just saved. And it's 10.10.0.05/16. And we also want to show the VPC name. So let me press enter. It will show the name to you. So I gave it a command, show VPC name to me. And the VPC name that I saved. The export all the time means save. And echo all the time means show. So it is showing it to me now. And we are about to create the VPC now. So I need to give it a command to create it. So AWS easy to create VPC. So we are creating a VPC with a CIDR block range of 4/16, which is going to be 65,536 IP addresses. So it can contain that number of IP addresses. So this tags and the name is going to be Web App VPC. And we deploy it in US East 1. So that's what it is. So I just press enter. So it is creating it. Yeah. So it's successful now. So the next step is to find out whether it's worked. So we want it to display the VPC ID. So I'm saying it should show the VPC ID to me. I'm pressing enter. It worked. So it is showing the VPC ID to me. And we used our VPC name to get the VPC ID. And we are going to save it. So it just saved it, the VPC test as VPC ID. So with the commands, you need to understand what all of it means. So we will save the results, the VPC 0593C0 into the VPC ID. So anytime you see a VPC ID, then that's the VPC, and that's the result. So it's nothing difficult, but you just need to understand it. And the next step, we are going to create a subnet. And the subnet divides VPC into smaller networks. So we need to create the subnet now. But before we create the subnet, we need to save it first. Save the subnet name, the subnet title range. So this is the, we are going to save a spot we save. Save subnet 1. The title range, the value is 10.10.1.0/24, which is 265 IP addresses. So that's the number of IP addresses we can obtain. And it is going to be deployed in US East 1A. And the name, we will save the name as Web App Public Subnet 1. So we just press enter. So the next thing to do is to create a subnet. So we have to verify and see whether it worked. So we want to tell or give a command to show the ID to us. I'll press enter and see whether the ID will come. The subnet 1 ID is yes, so it was successful. The subnet has been created. So if the subnet does, if I tell it to show the subnet ID and it didn't show it to me, then it means it wasn't created or I didn't see the subnet ID. But because I was able to create it successfully, it showed it to me. It showed the subnet ID to me. This is 0A549. That's it. And the next step is to create subnet 2. We want 2 subnets in order to create a high availability for our resources. And we'll be deploying resources in 2 availability zones so that when there is a disaster in one availability zone, the other availability zone can be used to serve our traffic. So that's what we need. So subnet 2. So for that one, we do the same thing. We save the subnet name, the subnet title range. And we also save the site where we deploy our resources, which is the US East 1B. So that's it. You press enter. And we'll be looking for the ID. Now the thing is, we want to see whether the VPC ID is still working. So we want it to show it to us now. Because that's when we deploy our resource. Yes, the VPC ID is not working. So I tell it to show the VPC ID to me. So after that, the next thing to do is we are going to create the subnet with the name we saved and the title ranges that we saved. So I'm just going to use those things that we saved to create the resources. So I just paste it and press enter. So you see, I'm saying that it will create the subnet and I'll be using the cider block range I saved and I'll be creating it in the VPC ID I saved. And I say this is the VPC ID. So that is what I verified not so long ago. So we create it in that VPC and we deploy it in an availability zone. US is 1B. So that's what it's all about. So this is the US is 1B availability zone. So we now have to verify whether the subnet was able to create. If it doesn't show, then it means the creation wasn't successful. But if the ID show, the subnet ID does show, it means it was successful. So you have been able to create the subnet now. It was successful. So the next step is to create internet gateway. Internet gateway will connect our VPC to the internet. So that's what it does. So we have to create that one too. But before we create it, we need to save the name for the internet gateway. Press enter. I want to show my VPC IDs too. Okay, it's successful. Then project is becoming long, so I want to clear so that we have enough space to do the job. So I want it to show my VPC ID to me again. So I'm creating the internet gateway now. So I'm creating the internet gateway. That's what it means. And we use the name that I just used. So the next step is to attach it to the VPC. So you have to attach the internet gateway to the VPC. So that's the internet gateway ID. And that's the VPC ID. So we are attaching them so that the VPC will have access to the internet. I want to verify and see whether I was able to create the internet gateway. So it was successful. I was able to create it. And that is the numbers. Have you seen it? The internet gateway ID. So for commands, we use the ID to do everything. The IDs, we use it to connect all the resources together. So as soon as you finish creating a resource, you need to check the ID. If it doesn't show the ID, then it means that there was no resource creation. That what's in it. You have to go down again. We are creating a route table. And what the route table does is it directs traffic to the internet. But if we direct traffic to the internet, then it's called public route table. So we are going to create the route table. So we have to, the first thing that we have to do is just to export our route table. So we are saving the name for the route table. Press enter. And the next step is I want to show all the IDs I created recently, not long ago. So I'm showing all my IDs. So the first ID is the VPC ID showing Internet Gateway. I want to see the ID showing the subnets. I want to see the ID down to is showing. Let's press it, enter and see whether we can see the subnet 2 ID. And now I also saw the subnet 2 ID. So everything else. So there is no need to rerun resources to get the IDs. So I've been able to create all the resources from start to finish. So the next thing is to create the route table. So I'm creating a route table. It says create route table, and I'll create it in this VPC ID. And that is what it's all talking about. Now, after creating the route table, it will save the ID, this RT ID. So that's what it is. The results will be saved in the RT ID, which is the variable. And we have finished saving it. And we want to add a route to the internet. So we have to use commands for that. So I've created another route for the route table so that the route will be able to direct traffic to the internet. So I've made the router a public route table. So that's what it is. I've made the route table a public route table. So we also have private route table. Private route table means traffic will stay within the network. But for this one, traffic will go to the internet. So it's still called public route table. And after that, the next thing is to associate the route table with both subnets, so that the subnets will become public subnets. So that's what it's talking about. So let's see. So we have also associated the route table to the subnet. So that's why you see both IDs together. We have associated it together. So that is what it means. And the next step, we have to verify and see whether our route table is correct. We're able to create a route table. So we have to get verified. So we are checking our ID, our route table ID. I have to press enter. So it shows the route table ID to me. So it was successful. So the next step is to create application load balancer security group. So what application load balancer security group does is it's going to create a firewall that will protect my application load balancers. Application load balancers direct traffic to the web service. But before it receives traffic, it has to use port, whether port 80, port, and there are other ports. But for this one, I'm going to use port 80. And port 80, anytime there is traffic, it has to use the port 80 before being able to reach the application load balancer. And the port is a doorway to reach a service. So the first thing in order to do to create a security group for the application load balancer is to save a name for it. So we are saving a name. Save application load balancer security group name as web application load balancer security group. Press enter. And the next step, we have to find out whether our VPCs are still working. And the VPC is working. So that's the VPC. So we will always be using the VPC, the private network in the cloud. So I just wanted to verify and see whether the VPC resource is still available. So it's still available, and we have to keep on creating our resource, which is the application load balancer security group. So I'm creating it. Now press enter. So I'm creating the application load balancer security group. So we are creating a security group name, the name that I say I'll use that name. I'll create the security group in this VPC ID. So that is what it means. After that, I'll get the ID, save it as RTID. So that's what it means. So the thing about all these things is the more you practice, the more you get good at it. So practice makes a man perfect. You just have to keep on practicing and eventually get there. So after that, I'll have to tag the security group. So we are going to do the port. We will allow HTTP traffic port 80 from anywhere. So anybody on the internet can access my application load balancer on port 80. So that's what it means. So AWS EC2 authorized security group address. So inbound traffic is going to be port 80. So anybody on the internet can reach my application load balancer security group on port 80. So that's what it is. Then I press enter. After that, I have to verify and see whether everything was successful, whether I was able to create the application or balance it. I'm verifying that and it was successful. Application or balance security group ID is showing. I have to clear in order to get enough space to continue the project. So the next step is to do EC2 security group. So for the EC2 security group, you have to give it a name. So the name is going to be the EC2 security group. After that, what I'm going to do is I have to check whether my VPC ID and my application bar and the standard security group ID is still working. Yes, both are working. Salvation is showing. Both are showing, so everything is fine. The VPC ID is showing, and the application of and security group is showing. So the next step is to create the EC2 security group. So EC2 create the security group with the group name I just saved, and the description of the EC2 security group is going to be web server. And I'll be creating the security group using this VPC ID. I'll create it in this VPC. And after getting my EC2 security group ID, I will save it. So that's what I'll be doing. I have to save it. And after saving it, use it to continue to do the project. So anything that you do, after creating a resource, you need to save the ID and use it for the following steps. So that's what it's all about. And you have to tag it. So for the next step, what we are going to do is you have to create inbound group for it. And for the inbound group, it's going to use the application load balancer security group. So before a traffic can reach it, one, it has to pass through the application load balancer security group before it can reach the EC2. So that's what it means. And that is it. It's as simple as that. We press enter. So after that, I have to also make sure that I allow SSH. What SSH does is it's going to help you to reach the EC2 remotely. And anytime that you want to SSH into something, most of the time it's better to use only your IP address so that it creates more security. You don't have to make your SSH public to the internet. So I can only SSH into my EC2 using my private IP address now. Or I can only SSH into it using my public IP address. So I'll be using only my public IP address to reach it. I press enter. Then I have to verify and see whether the EC2 security group was successful. And definitely it was successful. So as I said, it should show the EC2 security group ID to me. And definitely it showed it to me successfully. So you have to clear it because the project is becoming too long now. And the next step is to create a target group. And a target group is a list of EC2 web servers that receive traffic from the application load balancer. So we save the target group name as the web activity. So I want to see whether the VPC ID is still working because we deploy our resources in that VPC. So I'm looking for the ID, and definitely it's working. I said show VPC ID to me. Show the ID. So the next step is to create a target group. So I'm creating a target group now with the name I saved, and the application load balance can reach my target group on port 80. And I'll be deploying the resource in the VPC ID I created when the project started. And we'll be using instances as a target. So that's the type of resource we'll be using, like web service or EC2 instance. And we'll be using health checks to check the web service to see whether they are healthy before traffic will be sent to them. So if a traffic is not healthy, then the application load balancer wouldn't be sending traffic to the EC2 web service. After that, we create the target group name. We will create the target group resource and save the ID. So that's what we need. I'm verifying whether it was successful. So the next step we are going to do is to save the application load balancer name. So I'm saving it now. So I'm creating application load balancer. That's why I saved a name for it. So web application load balancer. And the next step is that I want to show a command. I want to tell AWS to show my subnet 2, application load balancer security group, and my target group to me, because I'll be using it in this step. So I'll be seeing it showing it to me. So the first thing, show my subnet 1. Then he showed it to me. And I said, if you show the subnet 2 to me, the subnet IDs, and he showed it. Application load balancer security group. I said, if you show the ID to me, and it's showing it. So it means I've been able to create all these resources, and it's still working. And this one too was created. So everything is successful. AWS Elastic Load Balancer US1 860450. It was successful. The web app target group is successful. So the next step, is to create the application load balancer. So I'm creating the application load balancer. And the application load balancer is going to be deployed in 2 subnets. And it's going to use this target group, the web app target group. Have you seen all of it is shown? So it's successful. So this command, I just pasted the image. We should wait for the load balancer to be ready. I just press enter. And you see, this may take 1 to 2 minutes. So we just sit there with no output. So it's done. So let's wait for some time. The next step, I want to create the listener. We're going to listen on port 80, the application load balancer. So the application load balancer will listen on port 18, and it will be using the target group I just created. So it will be forwarding traffic to the target group I created. And it's as simple as that. Then it will be using an HTTP of 80. So nothing difficult. And at times there's also no need to put all these commands in your head, but you just have to be understanding certain things about it. Or when you talk about commands, it's just templates to do something. So at times you need to understand a bit of the templates. At times people think that command is about putting so many things in your head. You don't have to be putting so many commands into your head like that. About how it's going on. So the next step is to the next step, we are going to get the application load balancer DNS name. So the application load balancer has to have the DNS name, which is the domain name. And that domain name will help us to reach the website. So that is what we are doing. So just press enter. So the next thing, we will verify and see whether the application load balancer was created. You also verify and see whether the domain name too was created. So the domain name will help us to reach the website. We press enter again. So it says application load balancer DNS equals the web app application load balancer and it's showing these numbers. It means it was successful. And the application load balancer restores. I want to see whether that one too was successful. That one too was very successful. So everything is fine now. So the next thing is to create a launch template. And a launch template is just a blueprint of your EC2 web service. So the target group will be using a type of blueprint for all the web service. And before you do a launch template, you need to have an operating system, the computers that will be using and those kind of stuff. So the first step that we'll be doing is to use the AMI. So we'll be getting or we'll be creating an AMI. So the AMI also contains an operating system. So we'll be using this AMI 6.1. We press enter and then we tell it to show our AMI to us. So our AMI ID is this one. And we add a data script. The data script contains the web server and the web page. So this is the data script. Press enter. So I'm telling it to show my data or my web server and those kind of things to me. I want it to show my data script to me and it's successful. User data is ready. Good. It contains the web server and the website. So that's what it's all about. Shall we see? Welcome to Google Auto Scaling Web. So that's the web page. And let's look at something. So all these things, the server and the server too will be the one that will serve the web page to our customers. So it's nothing difficult. So after that, the next thing we want to save our launch template name. We also want to save a key name. A key name means that anytime that you want to SSH into the EC2, you need a key to do that. So we want to give a name to that key. So that's the launch template name. And this one is the key name. A key name will help me to SSH into the EC2 remotely. Or no, the key will help me to SSH into the EC2 remotely. But for this one, I'm giving the key a name. So the next step, I'm creating the key pair. So the key pair is the key that I'll be using to open the EC2 remotely. So I'm creating it right now. And now the key will be called the web app key. So just press enter. So the next step, I want it to show my AMI ID, my EC2 security group ID, and my user data ID. So let's see. My AMI ID is showing 0E874. And I also wanted to show my easy to security group, and that one to is shown. And the user data to is shown is the ID. So everything was successful. So the next step, I want to create the launch template now, but I want to clear it because it's too long. So I'm creating a launch template by pressing enter. So we use the to micro. We have a key name. We have a launch template name, the version 1. I think everything is fine. Yeah. So I want to verify and see whether the launch template. So I'm saying it should show the launch template to me. It says launch template, the web app launch template created. So it was successful. Now I want to do the auto scaling group. What auto scaling group does is it controls the number of EC2s you should be using. So when there is a higher traffic, it means you need more web servers to do the job. But when there's a lower traffic, you need less web servers to do the job. So it does it automatically, and it will be giving your customers the web pages. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to save the name for the auto scaling group, which is the web app auto scaling group. So we press enter. And the next thing to do, you have to show all the resources we created. The launch template name, the subnet 1 ID, subnet 2 ID, target group, kind of stuff. Okay. So let's see. Auto scaling group name is successful. Show my launch template name, the web app launch template, subnet 1. Everything is successful. Yeah, I just press enter. So we are creating the auto scaling group now. So we are creating the auto scaling group. Replace name and those kind of things. And we'll be using a maximum size. So if there's high traffic, it has to be 4 web servers. And we start with 2 web servers. And when there is a low traffic, there will be only 2 web servers. We press enter. Then we just verify it. So it was successful. So since it was successful, let's go and check the console and see how we did. So let's check our load balancers. The load balancer was created. So let's see whether the web page is working. So every time we create it, we use that load balancer domain name to check and see. So that's how it is. Yeah, that's the page. So since we have been able to use the commands to create the resources, I want to show you the resources that we created and at least help you to see that everything worked. So the first thing, let's look at the load balancer. No, so the resources was being created and look at the auto scaling groups. Have you seen the auto scaling group? That resource was created successful. We use the commands. And the reason why we use the commands is that it makes work very faster, easier, and it makes work less prone for errors. So if you use it, errors will be reduced. But if you use the console, it delays your work, it makes work very hard and whatnot. So that is why companies normally like using the commands. And here's the keypads. Have you seen that we use the command to create keypads? So here's the web app key. So that one too was successful. And the launch templates. That one too was successful. The launch template was pretty successful. So it shows you that the commands are very effective. And here are the instances running. Have you seen that as soon as it starts, like the instances, all the time, when you start the design instances of two. So that is why two are running. So just imagine if there is high traffic, they would have created like four web servers, but at the moment they are using only two because that's the design that we use all the time. And the VPCs that we created, I want us to go and check that one too. Let's check the VPC. Have we seen it? A web app VPC was created successfully. The subnets. Subnet 1 and subnet 2, that one too has been created. And let's check the internet gateways. That one too was successfully created. And the round table. Let's look for the round table. And that one too created. So it means everything really went well. And we associated the subnets with the round table. Everything went well. And let's check the routes. Let's check the routes and see whether the internet gateway was added to it. Definitely, the internet gateway was added to it. So it means everything was successful. So have you seen the power of the commands? So it's very, very important to learn how to use the commands. And the security groups. And so the security group so has been successfully created. We have quickly EC2 security group, which is here. And we also have the web application load balancing, which is here. So everything is successful. So it tells you a thing or two about the command line. So it's very important that you learn how to use the command line, and it's going to help you to do your work. So I think everything has been successful with especially the creation of the resources. So I'll leave everything here. So until next time, thanks.